Right, hello everybody. This is gonna be kind of a bit different. I'm doing a state of the channel for 2022 since it's the first day of the new year, and I actually have had a lot of things change. A lot of stuff has been happening since I've been kind of radio silent for a time. And I just kind of wanted to give a basic rundown of why I've been so quiet, why I haven't done much, and then kind of set it to some gameplay footage just so you have something to kind of watch. First and foremost, welcome to 2022. Electric Boogaloo, yeah, the jokes are there. Although I will have to admit, the whole, like, 2022 is pronounced 2022. It's like, okay, you're not clever. Not in the slightest, but whatever. I have had kind of a year from hell, to be real with you. I was in college and doing some finals when I kind of went radio silent. There was also a lot of projects I ended up getting my hands into, and that was kind of difficult to balance both work, school, some relaxation time, and of course dealing with some personal stuff. So there was just a point in time where I took a break, got myself reorganized, and then quite literally like 2 months later, everything went right down the drain. I had a lot of losses. Unfortunately, my dog passed away after 12 years, and that was really catastrophic for anybody who, you know, knows what it's like to lose a pet, especially a pet that you raised since they were a puppy. I also had a bit of a struggle with feeling like a ill-suiting partner with my partner, with my girlfriend. I just kind of felt for a time that, you know, I wasn't being there or as good of a partner as I should be, and that kind of made me go into a lockdown state, where of course, you know, I wasn't talking to anybody, and I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody about it because I guess I just kind of felt that if I asked, like, hey, am I being a good partner, a lot of people will reflexively say yes because they, you know, don't want you to feel bad. Of course, I know my girlfriend wouldn't actually do that, but that was the trying to get over that in my head was pretty difficult. I will not lie. So yeah, bit of a here, bit of a there, bit of a everywhere. On top of this, I also had holiday season at my job, which, you know, you go from a full-time shift at 8 hours with school to doing like 10-hour or 12-hour days. It does kind of wear on you. You know, basically you have to drive, go to work. It just kind of felt like you're going to work, coming home, throwing some grub in your mouth, and then, you know, going to bed. And that just, you know, kind of aided to the seasonal depression that I tend to have around this time of year also. Because I've worked a lot of service jobs and retail jobs over my life, and so the holiday season tends to kind of be a bit of a traumatic experience for me because you have, like, people that sit around and do the whole, like, oh, goodwill towards all mankind, and everybody acting nice and happy to each other, but yet, you know, you go online and it's like, hey, remember when all the family come back to town and they treat you and your friends like shit because you have differing opinions? And that obviously is like a meme, you know, like, oh, the, you know, racist grandpa comes to town. But I feel that with the current climate that things are in, and the way the discourse has been so heavily, you know, screwed over by the way social media companies run themselves, you know, it was just like, yeah, that's kind of thing. So that kind of made me, you know, not willing to want to do a lot of stuff. Pair on top of that, I have radically, I don't know how I set this guy down. Oh, there you go. I have radically swapped up what my friend group is. I've cut out a lot of people that were toxic in my life and started moving on to new things. And when you start cutting down your friend group, there's kind of this innate terror that shows up, like, hey, am I cutting out friends because they're toxic, or am I isolating myself? And of course, there's that fear of being isolated and being alone and not having someone to talk to. And that kind of makes you want to hold on to the people that you do have because, you know, they might be really mean to you or they might be pretty rude, but, you know, at least they're not, at least you're not alone. And that's a mindset that I had to break as well. This also on top of the fact that I just kind of started getting lazy about doing the All-American Nightmare. I really, after some personal drama, I really started to self-doubt as to whether or not I could actually create what I was trying to do. And of course, like, there are videos on YouTube. YouTube is just the channel which I go to publish it, but I was kind of watching that there was a lot of I wasn't getting a ton of views. I was vacillating, but it kind of showed up that I can't really grow the channel with the content I was making. And then on top of that, I really wanted the channel to kind of grow on its own and not be focused on, going to Discord servers or Reddit servers and asking people to go watch my video, because I kind of felt that that really didn't do well with what I was trying to do. That if the word really did matter to people, if talking about the issues of the American education system were a big concern for a lot of people, that it would, naturally move around, and it just doesn't. And it might be because of YouTube's algorithm. It might be my own naivete and thinking that I had more to say than what I did, but it was very difficult for me to kind of come to terms with that. There we go. And to, kind of sit there and have that moment in your life where you're like, yeah, you're not actually as great as you think you are, and maybe this project isn't a good idea. It really did make me think. And I was also fighting that with, I've always had a really kind of problem with follow through. There's a lot of times where when projects get really hard, I tend to dial it in and, go the path of least resistance. And in some cases, that's okay. Like, if you're doing a project you really don't want to do for, like, a school thing, yeah, it makes sense to, take the path of least resistance. But when it comes down to, a project that you're actually involved in, you can't just bow out when things start getting tough. That doesn't help anybody. That, in fact, actually kind of makes it harder for you to get stuff done, because it's like you're trying, like, oh, this didn't work, so I guess I just stop trying. And it's like, no, it's working. It's just very arrogant to assume that you're going to make a video and it's just going to blow up on YouTube. And that applies to a lot of other things I've said. There's lots of people who have heard me say, you can't just expect yourself to be big on YouTube, so why wouldn't I apply the same concept to myself? That being said, though, I did try, and I am going to stick with the project. All-American Nightmare will continue. I might not do a second season, but I am bound determined to complete the current season, to and within the best of my abilities, to put quality in each project. And the way that I want to start that is by this first of the year, I, am going to release the newest episode that's actually taking me longer than expected, because there's a lot of stat work that I have to figure out. So, it's about school shooters, as I've said in the pilot episode, and it explains, statistical analysis. We're going to look at, taking all these different shootings, cutting out the ones that I can't use, and doing an analysis of what actually does make a school shooter that we can see in these situations. And I decided that even if it's something that, YouTube probably won't agree with, or most people won't agree with, I'm still going to do it. And if people disagree with that, well, they're not actually disagreeing with me. They can disagree with the information that I have. That's why I put my citations down below. That when you have someone who, goes, oh, these videos are just lies, and you're just making shit up as you go, it's like, well, here's my citations. So if you're going to call me a liar, go look in the citations and find where I lied. Find where what I'm saying isn't backed up by data. And that kind of gave me a lot of, oomph to get over that hump. So I do plan on doing the All-American Nightmare. I am going to break this next one up into 2 parts. I'm doing a lot more editing work. I took a few, I think it's like Skillshare classes on video editing. I don't have a great system. Like, I'm not working with like a high-dollar editing rig. I'm working with my own little laptop. But I've learned a few new tricks that I can kind of do that I really wouldn't have thought of knowing how to do had I not looked it up. So I'm hoping to start off the new year with, I guess, the part 2 of season 1 of All-American Nightmare, and I'm hoping to put in all the effort and time into it to make it a quality product that not only people want to watch, but people want to watch consistently. Because that's ultimately what I wanted. Speaking of that, that's actually what I've come to say with a lot of things. I've kind of realized I don't want a big fancy audience. I don't want to be, like Innuendo Studios or, Luton09, these channels that have really big audiences that do video essays. I'd rather have 100 subscribers that consistently show up to listen to what I have to say and to take heed of what I've said than a massive audience that's, just turning in for the clickbait and following algorithm systems. And, that's what matters to me right now, is quality over quantity. And it took a lot of convincing. I would tell people who I would talk about my videos that, yeah, that's totally what I'm about. But Up until recently, I didn't really believe it myself. It was very hollow of me to say such things, but now I've gotten to the chance to fully and firmly believe it. So I'm going to be pulling some other folks that tend to be in this line of work in with me to do the videos. The interviews actually worked out really well. I didn't think the interviews as like add-ons to the content were going to work out as well as they did. And yet, lo and behold, there's a lot of people that said they were very interested in the Your Mom's Twerk Team interview as well as the Lucy Keough interview. And those views do reflect that. And like I said, there's not a lot of people who have gone and asked a trans person or a woman of color how they feel about, school dress code. It's usually these extremely academic people that have the numbers, but they don't really have the on-the-ground information. And those interviews were kind of hand-selected to show that there are a lot of different opinions on this and that the view isn't just one-sided. And that was mostly in response to people saying that I was, being a liberal lefty shill and being uber woke, but it's like, no, I have a woman of color who has opinion, and I've presented that as honestly as I can. I have other people that have done their opinions, and, I'm doing this as best I can with what I have, and criticism is welcome, but ultimately if your thing just comes down to I don't agree with stuff, then I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm not going to waste my time with it either. As far as a podcast, I actually had a long time ago the idea of starting up a podcast with some friends of mine. Those are Josh, David, and Alec, who obviously run the not the meat grinder, the Rainbow Unicorn Princesses Meatcast, which is a podcast I've been on a few times to kind of get some new information on how one would run a podcast for themselves, and it was really, really helpful. But I, of course, found some other people that I would just kind of fit in with a bit more and had a bit more in common with, and had a more of a show that I kind of wanted to do, which was more like dunking on things and doing analysis of different topics and, just kind of having a more of a free-floating criticism that I tend to do. And that was Realize TV, who, of course, is my co-host on the Meat Grinder podcast. And that's just when we basically look at YouTube videos or some topics and just kind of take the piss out of them. We occasionally do the news, although I'm not so much on the news side of things. And that was a lot of fun too. It's fun to just kind of sit down and chew the shit with some people who kind of share a lot of the takes that you have. It's comforting, I guess you'd say. And that's what I've been doing on most of my Monday nights is just jumping on there, looking at some videos. And that also let me do some of the cool stuff that I wanted with interviews style. Like we had a friend of ours who is named Will that I met up on the Forever Alone Reddit, excuse me, and they kind of gave us some new information on the differences between incels and the Forever Alone crowd. They kind of give us some insights, and that's more what I want to do going forward with the world. I would like to have a more interesting take on things, more nuanced takes, and not so much kind of faffing about with the news and things that I don't think are going to go anywhere, really. 22? Oh, jeez. I am level 10. Yeah, that's not going to work. So that's something I've been doing from time to time, and if any of you are interested in that, sure. Go give the Meat Grinder a try. We've actually been looking for some new guests to bring on to the channel, which has been really, really, fun overall. And that's just something that I want to do more with a podcast. I feel when you actually have a podcast, it should be about trying to connect with people and trying to make those voices amplified. I've pretty much given up entirely on what it would be... going into Discord servers and messing around with stuff. I kind of just want to do my own thing, so that's been a huge removal of stress out of my life. But I have, unfortunately, through meeting Realize through Jamie Darkey's stream, who has also been a big supporter of me as of late. We ran into a guy whose name is Flacco, aka Medicule Vitriol, aka Desolator 669 or 666, I'm not sure. And for those of you who have Googled my name, you've probably seen where I jumped on his channel and basically just was very dry and condescending to him and some of the claims he's made against me. and some of the accusations he's made. And I kind of understand that, like, while that stuff is entertaining, and while in that case it really did need to be said because that person had no respect for my boundaries or several other people's boundaries, starting up YouTube drama, I just don't have the time frame, the mental capacity, or really the interest in doing that on top of everything else I have to do. I can do it if needs arise, but intentionally designing... Wow, thanks, guy. Intentionally designing this to be, like, the bulk of my channel, I just can't do that. I can't do internet drama at this point in time in my life. It's just... It's not something that I have a real big want to do. It's not that I can't, it's just... That just wears on me. And in a lot of cases, it's like you're starting up this shit, and in a lot of cases, all it's going to do is make me look like an asshole and give that person a little bit more of, like, standing, because there's plenty of people who hate me online. So I'm sure that they'll just, you know, oh, I'm going to join with this person because, you know, they don't like Zale. Okay, well, that's great. Arguing bad faith. And with a lot of these cases, I tend to say everything that needs to be said in the first go, so I don't have to do this again. So I'm really not in an argumentative way able to do long, prolonged drama streams when it comes down to it. And yeah, that's just my take on that. I mean, obviously a lot of people are going to be kind of upset that I'm not going, you know, deeper into this. Wow, that hurt. Jesus. Getting fucking hammer timed over here. There we go. So that's kind of my thing with actually trying to do the channel, getting into blood sports again. It's like, okay, this isn't as fun as I remembered, and that's I don't even feel bad about that. Like, I honestly, like, you know, blood sports was fun when I was 18. It was new to the internet, and you could kind of get away with that stuff, and it was cool to have that social profile. Like, you could go into a Discord and, you know, chat about how you own somebody. But now that I'm older, it's like, I don't really give a fuck about half the people that I'm doing this to, and the other half, it's like, I'm not taking down someone who is in big name and needs be brought back down to earth. This is someone whose main issue with me is probably a misunderstanding or a lack of communication or a misinterpretation. And really, it's like, what kind of an argument is that? Like, this is what's worth bringing up drama. Like, you said, I said this, and in fact I said that. That it just seems very childish and petty, and I'm just not in the mood to do that. And also, it doesn't look good for my channel. You're going to tell me that on one side of my channel I'm making video essays about critical, concerning thoughts, but then I'm going into a stream for somebody and, you know, dropping them down a peg or three. And it's like, well, why were you wasting time with this person? You could have been doing your other project. So, yeah, it's just effort I could put towards my actual projects, not going towards those projects as a way of stalling out and, you know, giving me a different thing to do. So part of me limiting down my workload is focusing on stuff that I actually want to do versus stuff that I don't want to do. And that's admitting that too. Like I said, I did enjoy kind of bringing that person down a peg or two, but at the end of the day, that's really not conducive to what I want to do with myself and my image and everything else. So that person, you know, Flacco, has decided to leave me alone for the most part. I've decided to leave them alone, going on 2-3 weeks now. So I see no reason to you know, gnash with sleeping dogs. And I think we're going to keep it that way. If something changes in the future, I might seek some counsel on whether or not I should handle it. But for the most part, I'm just going to focus on me, myself, and I, and my own projects and my own people. So I mean, if you've seen that, I know it's like spur in a moment, but I'm not going to really move far with that, and I'm not interested in the drama. The final thing on the channel specific stuff is I'm going to be changing up some content that I do, just to kind of get a new RAM, and I'd like comments in the comment section on, or if you can message me on Discord if you're in that way, what specifically you all would like to see in content, because I do kind of want to do some other content, aside from the All-American Nightmare, and aside from the, I guess, random streams I pop on. There was some other content to kind of fill the gaps in between when the research kind of takes me and when I'm waiting for interviews, and something that I kind of planned back when I was talking about War of the Wardrobe, but nothing I really put into practice, I noticed. So I kind of had ideas. I only have pitched, but to be real, when it comes to pitched, I just wasn't really seeing a lot of interest in that. In fact, a lot of people who have seen my pitched series actually kind of got confused on the SCP thing, because you Google SCP Netflix episode and my video shows up, and a lot of people are like, I think this is a great idea. Kind of upset that, you used like a clickbaity title, but still a good idea. I'm like, okay, yeah, that was true. Like, it was totally unintentional to make that kind of clickbaity, but I see what the point you're making. I've also planned on doing a little bit of gaming streams, although mostly just campaigns to fill the gaps and maybe some funny commentary or things like that. I'm not really big into gaming, and there isn't a lot of games coming out that I really want to jump into. I'm mostly replaying what I have. Although, yeah, if someone was like, hey, we'd like to see you play Cyberpunk campaign all the way through, or I had an idea to do a Fallout New Vegas playthrough with kind of a more of a, throw some mods on there and kind of create my own fun character, which was a World War II veteran who got hijacked at the Siege of Normandy and got, like, deposited in the Mojave Wasteland. And then I just thought it was kind of an interesting idea, and yeah, some folks were like, hey, yeah, I like this, I'd like to see more of this, and I might do something along those lines. But likely if I do a gaming channel, or if you guys would like to see that gaming content, it'll probably be on a different channel. I'll probably just open a second channel called, like, Zale Gaming, or Gaming with Zale, or, I don't know, Big Guts and Bigger Guns. And I'll probably do that there, just to cut down on, the clutter of my channel. As far as the opinions video, some people said they would have liked to see more of that. I do have plans to do another 10 more controversial opinions I have. But again, these are more jokey videos, and I was planning on making one for Christmas as kind of like, hey, here's a Christmas gift, and I just didn't. Christmas, actually, I just decided I wanted to spend time with my family and kind of work through some of my shit that I was dealing with, instead of making content, which, even though my content doesn't take a lot of time to make compared to, like, other people's, it's still one of those things that, like, I felt I was drifting apart from my family and my loved ones, and I needed to reestablish some of those connections and, seek their counsel and seek guidance and reopen those connections that I was kind of closing myself off to, and at least try to work that in, so. As far as another thing on my channel, and I'm only doing this because I made a promise that I wouldn't, although I'm very quickly reneging on that promise, is the Warhammer 40k trans and female Space Marines video. Somewhere, somehow, the video had, like, and I had put it to one Reddit site, that was Sig Marxism. Shout out to them for giving me some views. Sig Marxism signal boosted my trans Space Marine video to, like, I don't know, maybe 700, 800 views, less than 1,000, most definitely. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I look at my YouTube analytics at lunch one day, and it's like, holy crap, I'm up to like 1,000, 2,000 views, and I was like, what the hell? And of course, my comments section was blowing up with hatred from the straight white male audience. I ended up going and looking into some of the things that they were saying, and I looked into my demographics, and hey ho, what do you know? A lot of the demographics were from dudes that were like, I think it's like 25 to 27 was my age demographic. The predominantly trans and women of color that was most of my audience on other videos was completely wiped off the map. They basically went down to like less than 1% of my viewer audience. And most of my views were white men aged 25 to 27. And then I looked at the information, like what's linked on it. It was put on a 4chan thread, which I don't know why it was put there. It was put on a Kiwi Farms thread, which I have an idea of how it got there. And it was basically just like YouTube decided that because my content was featuring trans ideas and supporting trans people in a hobby, that they just had to ratio the ever-loving hell out of it. And so that was kind of what I thought happened, is like YouTube was basically like, oh, well, this is Warhammer content. Let's just stick it with a bunch of American dudes who hate fucking Warhammer and just despise the idea. Because some of those comments, I mean, like, there was ones where it was like, someone would like literally was threatening me with death, and of course I don't take those death threats seriously. I'm smarter than that. But it was just kind of like, holy crap, why all of a sudden is this man naked? No, he's just wearing tan pants. why all of a sudden am I getting all this hate and discontent? And it's like, oh, it's because YouTube basically ratioed the fuck out of my video and put it on an algorithm that screws it over. And now pretty much the only views I get on that are maybe like a paltry 20 to 28 views a week. And it's just been ratioed to hell and back. The dislikes one day were 64, and then they jumped up to about 384 in like a 72-hour period. And a lot of the people, also, the watch time on it was about 7 minutes. And that dropped down to like a minute and a half for average view count, which is basically the amount of time you need to click the video, leave a angry comment, or dislike it, and then click off. So that was like, well, gee, thanks, YouTube. I appreciate the fact that I'm trying to, make a case for trans people, and, it's not happening. I've also had people that left me, one guy left me a message where he's like, you'll never be a real woman, and I'm like, I identify as a cisgendered bisexual man. I assume that because I'm talking about trans voices, you assume only trans people can talk about that. I also had some, like, neoliberal morons who were like, if trans people want you to talk for them, you can signal boost them, but if you want trans voices in your video, make a trans person say it. It's like, no, I can speak on the cases of issues of other people without having the white savior complex. I can make an argument that other people have told me about, or I can just make an argument about an issue in the hobby without being of that demographic. To say that you can only make arguments if you are that demographic is intentionally using the fact that these voices are minorities to silence them. It's an unofficial silencing. And I'm sorry, but that's just some neo-lib bullshit. That's basically like, I don't want to argue this point, and I don't want to address your points, so I'm just going to say like, well, you're a lefty, and if you speak for them, you're speaking over them. It's like, I have not had a single trans person on that video come up and say, we can make these arguments for ourselves, we don't need you. So that was, oh, ow, that hurt. So that was kind of that, and I got a lot of trauma from that. There was a lot of days where I was like logging on to I was fighting my own in the comments for like the legitimate ones, but some of those arguments I was like, this, like, really, did you even watch the fucking video, or did you just like roll up and be like, yeah, no, this is totally a thing? Jesus. Ow, fuck, what the hell? Oh my god, it's like a clown car in here. So I just kind of, I'm probably not gonna make any more Warhammer 40k content because, no offense, well, I do like Warhammer 40k, the fucking fan base, for the most part, is fucking shit. I mean, Warhammer literally had to make an official statement that they don't support hate because some neo-Nazis showed up to a tournament in Spain and, like, wearing swastikas and hate symbols or something. And Warhammer's like, yeah, don't do that. They had to essentially handicap the audience. And that is to say, make it illegal for people to make Warhammer 40k content videos in a lot of respects, or they might pull copyright on them. All because of Arch Warhammer and a few other douchebags who basically just can't help themselves but be like, yeah, this power fantasy about men ruling the galaxy, yeah, us Nazis are gonna put our dirty little fucking fingerprints all over this goddamn thing, so we can be, we can be the arbitrators of what is and isn't, even though it's like, you didn't make Warhammer 40k, you don't get to say shit, and you're ruining it for everybody else because you just can't help but keep your bigotry in fucking check. And I also blame YouTube for that, because, I mean, with the whole shit that broke out about Facebook, where Facebook was intentionally putting two different, making political, disagreeing parties interact with each other more online to drive clicks. I have a funny sneaking suspicion that that wasn't so much a isolated case with Facebook. I have a pretty good feeling that lots of different groups are doing that. It's just Facebook was the first one to get caught doing it, and that's mainly because they had a whistleblower. And I say that because, I mean, shit, I had, I'm on 10, at the time of the 2020 election, I was in Facebook jail almost 10 times. Some of the stuff for, like, not even all that arguable of an offense, but, yet, there I stood. And I just was kind of on the realms of like, okay, this community clearly doesn't want me in it, so I'll make content when I feel like it. I know the new Warhammer Space Marine game is being announced. It hasn't been announced for platforms yet. I hope it comes to PS4 because I love Warhammer 40k Space Marine. And to have another one in 10 years later, it's like, ah, cool, like, nostalgia, yay! Um, but yeah, there's that. Not to kind of switch gears here. Not to say that I didn't meet some amazing people. Well, I have had a lot of losses, and I have had a lot of pitfalls along the road in 2021. I kind of want to do some shout outs to some people who have kind of kept me going through all this. First and foremost is going to be, of course, my parents and my girlfriend and their family. Um, just because there's so many points in time that I was just in a very dark space, and having someone who actually messages you and calls to you and helps you out with things really goes a long way. And I know a lot of people don't have great family relations. I'm lucky and privileged enough to have that. And that really did save me from a lot of deeper issues down the road, to be real. I'd like to give a shout out to Danielle and Nelly from, Danielle's Discord friend of mine, as well as Nelly. Both people were greatly instrumental in helping me find myself, providing counsel, being positive influences in my life, and ultimately making, the time in between the dark gaps just a little bit better. Danielle has been a good friend of mine and a close personal friend for a long time, as is Nelly. I would consider them to be, if not personal family, close personal family, cousins of sorts. And, I really wouldn't have been as successful in this YouTube idea or as able to handle the shit that I got this last year without them. So thank you to both Nelly and Danielle for being my lights shining in darkness. Of course, a shout out to my wonderful co-host and brother in arms, or partner in crime, my second and equal, Realize TV, for helping me to actually have a podcast that I can kind of, do my own thoughts, and helping with the technical work of it, because I just simply do not have the understanding or wherewithal to do that myself. Thank you to Jamie Darkay, who, of course, without I wouldn't have been able to meet Realize, and for someone who was so accepting of me into the community and has, been a guiding force for a lot of the work I've done, and has kind of kept me grounded in a lot of ways, opened my eyes to some different opinions, and really just a wonderful person altogether. Obviously, a special thanks to Hyun and Origin, again, friends in in those servers. Just more people to bounce ideas off of, to speak with and enjoy things. Special thanks to Taylor from my TikToks, and again from Nelly's server. A person who regularly sends me memes and checks up on me, and makes me feel again like I'm wanted and cared for. Another old friend of mine from A Year in Hell. Thank you to Lucy Keogh, a wonderful woman with a amazing business, Black Bee Tattoos, who I plan on going to soon in the future to get my a tattoo design done up for myself. Who also conducted those amazing interviews and the speaking voices for 2 of them. I look forward to working with you in the future, and if you'll have help me with that. And I am so eternally grateful for you and what you do and your standing in the community and the content you produce. Thank you again to Bree Gotham Art, who was basically the person who made my new avatar of, the Noise Marine. If you haven't seen my swap over, it's on pretty much all my social media. And I was really vacillating between a lot of artists, and they came highly recommended, not only through Lucy Keogh, but through an extended member of my personal family, which would be Shane, my lovely husbando of sorts, a very close personal friend and confidant and counsel. Of course, my best friend Shane, who is, well, I really should say my brother Shane, my unofficial, unblood-related brother, for keeping me sane and being the one friend that stuck by me no matter what. And I would have been lost without you, brother. Thank you so much to Josh, David, and Alec from the RUP for giving me the ability to go through with this and create, and also for kind of giving me my start on YouTube and getting me kind of educated in how to do podcasts and how to, understand radio decorum and how to, properly talk and speak and organize my thoughts for a radio show. And last but certainly not least, thank you to TJ Kirk, who was one of my first fun follows on Twitter. Nice to have you back in my life again. Of course, TJ, for those you don't know, was a huge influence on me as a child. And upon meeting him at the DP meetup, all those years ago, really was I mean, he really was the first hero I met that didn't immediately let me down. To be real, uh, I look forward to 2022. I have the best of hopes. Not gonna let anything get me down. Gonna keep steaming ahead. Keep my life going, keep creating, keep making these great contents. I'm glad that I have a family, you all, my family, my subscriber family, who have made this even possible for me, despite my self-doubt, despite everything that I was afraid would hold me back. You have all been there for me, and you've been amazing. And I do this a lot for myself, but I also do this a lot for you, because if I didn't get views, I wouldn't come back and do this. So that's just what I'm looking at in 2022. Hopefully things get a lot better. If they get a lot worse, I'll still be here all the same. I'm certainly not leaving. And if all else fails, at least we had Paris. That's all I wanted to say. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a wonderful year just the same. I hope it's productive. I hope you manage to, accomplish those goals that you probably set out that you've been kind of holding off on. I hope for those of you who have sat down and made plans, that you see them through to fruition, and that they bring you all the joy that you're hoping they do. For those of my friends who are going into transition this year, I hope the transition is swift and excellent. I'm so proud of you for moving through with that. It takes a lot of courage to do that, regardless of what some people say. And for those of you who are, trying your best just to make it through the day, just know that your strength gave me strength. When I was really thinking about just letting it all go and just stopping what I was doing, it was the fact that you managed to make life look workable despite all of your struggles that gave me the ability to do it for mine. So thank you all. I love you all. I don't think I could have done this without you, and I'm certainly this has gone a lot farther than I thought it was going to be, and that's because you all push me and make me feel like my content actually matters. So I can't say thank you enough, but I'll say it one more time. Thank you all, and I'll see you in 2022.